Okay, Sarah, here is my opening, and I've got pins facing vertically instead of horizontally, so I have some space to actually sew. But this is really just to keep the seam straight so that I can sew it straight and keep it consistent with everything. And then I'll remove them as I need to. But I just like to keep them there to make sure it stays even. So I messed up and I totally forgot, but when I was sewing, what I've done in the past when I end on each end right here, I try to leave a long piece of thread that I can actually use to sew it so the thread stays connected, but I forgot to do that. So I have some thread on a needle that I'm just gonna attach and tie a knot and all that. And you know, based on which side you want to start on is up to you, but let's see here, I'm just trying to find the opening. Actually, I'm gonna move this pin a little bit over so that I have some space to get my needle in over here. And I am going to sew as close as I can to the outside, just because I don't want to sew inward, because then that will push the fabric more out and it won't be even. So I'm going to literally try to sew on the outside as much as I can. So trying to see if I can get this to, I mean, I'm sure whatever way you do it is going to be fine, but I'm actually only have the needle, I'm not doubling up my thread, because what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to sew, so I'm just going to keep the needle threaded like this with an end just chilling there and make sure I keep it that way. And then, so once I go all the way through once, I'm actually going to reverse and come back the other direction. That way it'll kind of be double stitched. And then I only have one end that needs to be tied. Does that make sense? So the one end will have like the curve right here, and the other end I'll tie together. That's the way I like to do it. That way there's less ends that can break. And I'm sorry if this video becomes long. So I'm just kind of gonna thread my needle through some of the already stitched part. Let's see if I can zoom this better. I mean, just get your thread started however you want to get it threaded. But I'm kind of doing like a stitch that I can just tie a knot within. So I've got a stitch right here, and then on the inside, so I have my threads coming out, and I'm just gonna tie a knot. I know this is probably like super confusing, you can't really see a ton, but I just say start it however you're gonna start it, and maybe even follow my advice, and when you go to clip one of the ends, just pull the upper thread out quite a bit, and that can be your starting thread. That way you can avoid, you know, getting a thread started on its own. Oh, sorry, there's like a dog here just chilling right here that is stuck. I'm just gonna cut it off. Okay. And then I'm gonna tuck that thread, that end piece inside here, okay? All right, so I have my thread coming out right here. Okay. So I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, but, and it's kind of hard to explain what I'm doing, but what I kind of do is I take one side, and I weave the needle through one side of the fabric and then pull it through, and I do a really small stitch, and then I come back and do the opposite side of the fabric and do the same thing. Just kind of weave the needle through a small stitch. I really don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. I really don't know if this is going to be helpful, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I'm sure however you decide to do it is fine. This would be so much better in person, I'm sure. But it's too bad we can't do that. Just can't. And like I said, this is like my least favorite thing to do is the stupid hand stitching. I hate it. You're sending me like a bunch of texts too while I'm doing this. I'm just gonna remove that pin that I had there because I'm doing a pretty good job of keeping it straight. So yeah, like I said, I don't know if you can see here. I'll try to do it a little bit upper close up. See if I can zoom this in here. Oh no, seems a little fuzzy. See if I can. Oh well, okay. So I'm going on to the fox fabric. I am literally doing just, oh, you can't even see the needle, just doing an in and out stitch, pretty small. And I'm keeping the stitches really close to the last stitch that I made as well, because I want it to be nice and tight. And then I do the opposite. Once I do one stitch on the other fabric, I do the opposite side. One small stitch, as close as I can to the previous stitch. Then I pull. And you don't need to pull super tight because you're going to end up opening it back up again to see where your stitch was. And this is really hard to see because of the fluffy fibers on here, but I think this might be a waste of time for you, Sarah. I mean, my video is already 8 minutes long. You're probably like, that was a waste of my life watching that, and I can't see her doing anything. Sorry, Sarah. But I think I'll end the video right now since I've kind of explained what I've been doing. But, I mean, let me see if I can kind of open this up a little bit. See, I mean, you can see I've made the stitch tight so far. I mean, it's staying pretty consistent. I've done like maybe 4 stitches so far.